in the live stream or for watching the recording. Today, as the title promises, I will take you through the 4 biggest mistakes that people make when trying to deal with the family reunification visa on their own. And of course, I will tell you everything about the family reunification visa in general as well. So if you're already living in the Czech Republic and you're planning on bringing your family here, or if none of you is here and you are planning your family relocation, this video is exactly for you. So let's go through the details. I will be looking here to the right from time to time because we've written a detailed article about that. I will link it in the description as well, so you can read through that too. And I will be just going through the structure so I don't forget anything. So yeah, first of all, let's start with what is a family reunification visa. So family reunification visa is a type of a long-term visa. So it's a D type of visa above 90 days of validity that allows family members, like selected family members, to join the main applicant in the Czech Republic. So if the main applicant, being it the spouse, being it the woman, being it the man, doesn't matter, is applying for an employee card or a blue card or a business visa or student visa, I will get back to it in a second, they can always bring their family members, but the family members must be only some family members. I will get back to it as well. So it's basically a long-term visa with the validity of up to 1 year, which allows family members of the main applicant to relocate to the Czech Republic as well. Hello, I'm always watching your videos. I'm from the Philippines. Hello, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, guys, regarding this topic, family reunification, ask in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. I will not be answering any other questions that are not related to this topic because this video or this live stream is topical. So I will be happy to answer as many questions as there are about family reunification. For other questions, I will be doing another private live stream just for joiners right after this one. So feel free to join and meet me there. So now 2 questions, because we often work with like Indians, Filipinos, Pakistanis, other nationalities from this area of Asia, and we get 2 main questions there. So I want to address them here as well. First is, can I bring my family to the Czech Republic if I'm a student? Because oftentimes maybe it works like that in other countries, so people ask this question, but in the Czech Republic there is no limitation to that. So even if you are a student, you can bring your family members with you. No problem with that at all. So that's one question. And second question we get often is if there is any waiting time before you can bring your family, because people often read like, okay, I've read that there is 15 months before I can bring my family. No, there is no limitation like that for the family reunification visa. There is a limitation, or there might be a limitation depending on the main applicant's type of application, but only for the residence permit application. So if you want to bring your family immediately under the long-term visa, there is no waiting time. You can all even apply at the same time. So you go to the same embassy on the same date, submit all your documents at the same time. So there is no waiting time. Guys, please remember that. Share it with everyone you know who asks these questions. There is no waiting time for family reunification visa. Okay, let's see if you have any questions regarding this. I don't have any family reunification issues, but I'm always interested to watch your live streams. Thanks for the info. Thank you for being here as well. Happy this is useful. I'm currently here in Armenia. Is it possible if my partner can get me as for family reunification? My partner is local. Is there a possibility? If your partner is Czech citizen, then you will not be applying for a family reunification visa, but for so-called partnership visa. So check my previous videos. I've done a lot of videos about partnership visa, or go to our website movetoprague.com and search for partnership visa, and we've written a couple articles about that. So there is an option for you. It's actually a very good one, but it's not the family reunification. You sound like George St. Pierre. I have no idea who that is. Anyway, let's continue. Now, who qualifies for the family reunification visa? That's very important because also from Asian countries, India, Philippines, people often want to bring their parents. Because I understand it's part of the culture. In the Czech Republic, the culture is when your parents get old, you put them in a home and let them die there. You know, you don't take care of them, you don't bring them to another country. You're happy you don't have to deal with them when they're old. So Czech Republic, the immigration system reflects this rule, and you cannot bring your parents unless you meet some of the conditions. And the conditions are primarily that the parent must be solitary, which means that you only have one parent, either one parent alive, so the other one is dead, or they are divorced and they are no longer together and they're officially divorced. So you have the official divorce certificate, official marriage certificate, all that. Plus, the second condition is they must be above 65 years of age. So even if you just have one parent left, but they are 55 or 60 or whatever, you cannot bring them because they are not above 65. There are some like small exceptions, like if they're completely dependent on you, like physically, but that's usually not the case because you would probably not be living in the Czech Republic for 3 years if they were like physically dependent on you. So that could potentially work, but that would have to require something like, okay, you only have one single parent, 60 years old, and their health got like very, very bad right now, and then you could potentially bring them, but you would need to prove that really their health is so bad and that they will not survive without your care, and that you must do it here, and that will take months, and that will anyway probably, I don't know. So very, very difficult to get your parents here. The family reunification generally is meant for spouses, so married couples. Also another note here, sorry guys, I'm still like finishing some flu or cold or whatever, some coughing, sorry. From Filipinos, for some reason, I don't know why, but recently we have a lot of Filipinos asking about unmarried partners, if they can bring them under family reunification, so that's not possible either. There might be some other routes which might be complicated but possible, but not the family reunification. Family reunification is only meant for married couples, so for spouses and for children below 18 years of age. So these are the two main qualifications, spouse or children. No one else is really considered a family you could bring to the Czech Republic. Now, the 4 big mistakes you've been waiting for, probably. So those are, because obviously you do not need to use service like ours, like Move to Prague, to get your family reunification visa approved. It's technically, you can technically do it, especially if the main applicant is already in the Czech Republic, so they have place to live, they have enough money in their bank account, they have local Czech bank account, so you don't have to translate anything. All that. Bye. Yeah, sorry, the comments distract me. That's so weird. One advice for young generation. Yeah, I don't think I will do that. Anyway, so let's continue. Sorry, guys. So yes, you can do the process on your own, and in many cases it works. The problem is the cases when it doesn't work, because my rule generally is that it's easier to prevent mistakes than to fix them. Because if you come to us saying, yeah, we've already had the visa denied or denied twice, what happens as well sometimes, even for us it might be difficult to fix because you've already messed it up, and that's like, there can be serious consequences of that. I'm not saying always there are, but it might be very difficult to fix. And it's generally very easy to avoid denials if you know what you're doing. And it's way easier than trying to fix them later. So you can do it on your own, but definitely I would recommend, at least for the first application, to use a service. And then if you see, okay, everything went well, I know exactly what I should be doing, the extensions in the Czech Republic, you can do it on your own completely, because you've been here, you know your way around. Usually it's not that easy to get the application denied, and before you get denied, you can hire a lawyer to try to like work with you, all that. So the extensions are easier. But for the first application, I definitely think, and honestly think, not saying it as an owner of business in this field, but genuinely I think for the first application you should use someone's assistance if you want to make sure that everything's fine. If you don't care much if you get denied or not, of course don't use anyone and just risk it. But if you want the process to work, if you want your family to come here as soon as possible and you want to have it without any problems, hire a professional. So this is the 4 biggest mistakes we usually see when people come to us after they've tried on their own. And these are usually the problems they faced. So first thing is that the main applicant's application must be strong. This is especially important. I'm so sorry, guys. This is especially important if you want to come all together. So if the main applicant is not in the Czech Republic yet, but if you all want to apply together. And what I mean by strong enough, that might be very difficult to kind of understand if you are in the situation, because obviously from your perspective, your application is strong enough. But it's not always strong enough from the perspective of the Ministry of the Interior. So you should always look at it from like objective point of view as your application, how it will be viewed by the Ministry of the Interior. For students, for example, you must have a very solid reason to come to the Czech Republic to study, especially if you're from any African country, if you're from Asian country, if you're from the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, most South American countries, then you'll be fine, very likely, because those are safe nationalities and easier to get approved. Not easy, but easier. But African countries, Asian countries, a lot of people trying to cheat the system, a lot of frauds there. So the government looks at the applications kind of on default as if you are faking it. And then it's up to you to convince them that you are not one of these and that you're not trying to fake it. So if you want to come to study to the Czech Republic, but you've just randomly chosen a school, you don't remember what subjects you will have, you don't know exactly, I mean like the starting and finishing date, how long you will study, how many credits you need to have to successfully pass, how is the final exam looking. Like if you haven't checked all these details, then your application is not very strong. Similar if you're applying for a business visa and you haven't really done anything, you don't have any Czech local clients, if you don't have any business plan, you don't have any office in the Czech Republic, all these kind of things, if you don't have that, your business plan is not really solid. I've done other videos about that, check those out if you want more details. But in this case, trying to apply with your family will make even the main applicant's application weaker, because it's already weak, and then you're saying, okay, and I want to bring 4 more people with me. That's probably hurt your chances, and it might be better if you apply alone and maybe get it approved, and then your family will follow. That will be easier. So this is what I mean, that the main applicant's application must be strong. And if it is strong, for example, you're applying for an employee card with a high enough salary and solid employer, not like some whatever, but if it's a solid employer, or if you're applying for a blue card, then generally the application is strong enough because you have a high salary, you have high education, you have a solid employer, so there is no problems with your application. Then you can apply with your family and you can come here all at the same time. So that's usually one of the biggest problems. Second, you need to be able to prove that you are family members. And that means that sounds easy, and in some countries it is easy, but in some countries it's not easy. Because if you want to bring your spouse, you need to provide proper marriage certificate. The same for your kids. If you want to bring kids, you need to provide proper birth certificates. In the very minimum sense, it means that they need to be properly apostilled or superlegalized and officially translated into Czech. This might be one problem, or like two problems: getting it apostilled, getting it superlegalized. Sometimes people make mistakes in that. Not that often, but sometimes it happens. Second, the translation is usually the bigger problem, because often people think that you can just get it translated by some local translator in your country and it will be okay. In most cases, it will not be okay. It should be a Czech court-approved translator, and that's depending on the country. It might be difficult to find in the country where you reside in. So how we usually do it with our clients is that you have the original document with the apostille or superlegalization, you DHL it to us. DHL is part of our services if you work with us. So you DHL it to us, we get it translated, and then we DHL it back to you with the rest of the documents, because you will anyway need to have proof of accommodation, maybe the employment contract, the application forms, all that. So we just send you back along with the translations. But in some countries, it also gets more complicated, because, for example, in Brazil, they have like 3 different versions of marriage, and 2 of them are not really accepted by the Czech government as a marriage, because that's something like that you go to a town hall and you say that you live together in one household, and they give you some paper confirming that. So that might be good enough in Brazil, but it's not good enough for the Czech immigration. So in different countries, there might be different levels of marriage, and not always they're accepted by the Czech Republic. So that's second problem. Third, and this is very common, especially among Indians and Filipinos as well, generally among students who live in dormitories, and for workers, employees in the Czech Republic who live in accommodation provided by employer. And the important thing is that the whole family must have the same address. So if you live in a dormitory, you must get your spouse proof of accommodation from the dormitory, or you must move, rent a proper apartment, change your address at the ministry, and then use the lease agreement from the apartment for your spouse as well. You cannot live in the dormitory and then use like a fake address, the virtual address for your wife or your husband to apply for the family reunification. Because again, people don't think about this from the perspective of the Ministry of the Interior. You see it as a normal thing. Okay, she cannot live with me, or he, whatever, cannot live with me in the dormitory. So I'll get her a fake address and we use that. And when she comes here, we move to a separate apartment. It makes sense in your head, but it does not make sense for the immigration, because you're saying that you want your wife to move here with you, but you'll be living in 2 separate places because you have 2 separate addresses. That's stupid. And you're not a real couple in that case. That's the ministry's like thinking. So you definitely must have the same address if you're applying for a family reunification. Yeah, and we've seen people denied because of that, who came to us after saying, yeah, we got denied, can you help us now? Again, easier to prevent this. If you worked with us before, then this would never happen, because we would tell you, okay, you must have the same address. And it's easier to prevent this than try to fix it later. And the worst case scenario would be that the ministry even finds out that that was a fake address, that was the virtual accommodation, because in that case, you've already used a fake document, and that could be very serious consequence for any future applications. So, yeah. And then having enough money in your bank account, I'll get back to it in a second. One thing I also want to mention here, which is not in the article, and so it's kind of technically fifth mistake, is that people apply for the family reunification too late and after too little effort to really be together. What I mean by that is that the main applicant have been living here for 3 years, never visited their wife or husband in those 3 years, and now they want to invite them. I've seen recently many applications denied because of that, because the ministry says, hey, guys, you haven't seen each other for 3 years, so it does not really seem like you're a serious couple, and why we should approve you then. So that's why you should ideally either apply together or very close to each other, or you should at least regularly visit each other before you submit your application. So that's just like additional bonus problem for you. And having enough money in your bank account, that's pretty simple. That just two things that happen there is that people sometimes have exactly the amount they need. It's just not in Czech crowns. So let's say for family reunification for an adult, you need 120,000 crowns in your bank account, which is, let's say, $6,000 now. So people have $6,000, but before someone starts checking their application, which can be 2 months later, the exchange rate changes, and now the required amount is $6,100. And now it's 6,000 is not enough, because now you need 6,100. And this can also get your application denied, because even if you're 1 crown short, you're short, so you get denied. So that's one thing. Ideally, always have a bit more. And second thing is, have the money there during the whole approval process, because the ministry can request anytime a new statement, and if they see that you no longer have the money, that can also be a reason for denial. Yeah, so as mentioned, if you want to make sure that your application goes as smoothly as possible, I would definitely recommend using a service like Move to Prague to help you with your first application at least. And either like the full service where we guide you through everything from like translations to preparation of all documents to preparing you for the appointment at the embassy, booking the appointment at the embassy, and then joining you to the foreign police visit once you're here, all that. Or even if you just do like a consultation with us when you think you have most of the documents ready, and then you come to us, we take a look at the documents, and we let you know if it all looks good or if you should change something. At least you will get a feedback, and if you still have time to your appointment, you will have time to fix it. So you will not pay the full assistance, which I understand might be like too high for some people, because our services are not cheap for sure. But if you do at least the consultation, you instantly increase your chances by, 50%, because you had someone to check the documents by objective eyes, so we can catch mistakes which you probably would not even think of. Yeah, so that's thing. Let's see if there is any question regarding to this. Interview at embassy, uni told me last date enrollment. Okay, that's not related to family reunification. So let's continue. List of documents for the family reunification visa. Let's go through that quickly, because this has been 24 minutes already. I talk much. Sorry, guys. So, documents needed for the family reunification visa. Application form. Nothing too complicated there. That's the black and white one for the D-type visa. If you work with us, we fill it in together like right before you go to the embassy. That's one of the least important documents. Passport, you should have at least 2 blank pages and ideally at least 2 years of validity, because the visa can be shortened if your passport does not have long enough validity. So it's best to have at least 2 years validity in your passport. 2 passport size photographs, easy 4.5 to 3.5 centimeters or 3.5 to 4.5. White background, gray background, no teeth visible, easy. Proof of accommodation, yeah, we talked about it before. It must definitely be the same address as the main applicant, and the validity should be at least 1 year if you want to get the visa for at least 1 year, because the validity of your proof of accommodation can shorten the validity of your visa. Proof of funds, we talked about that as well, so make sure you always have more than required, especially if it's not in Czech crowns, and make sure you maintain the balance during the whole approval process. As for the amount, you need equivalent to say 120,000 crowns per adult, and half of that, so let's say 60,000 crowns for a child below 15 or 18, I'm not sure now. Anyway, in real life it's a bit less, it's like 115 and half of that, but if we say 120, you'll be on the safe side, but still have even a bit more than that. Documents proving the purpose of your stay, so that's the purpose of stay of the applicant, so the family member, so that will be either the marriage certificate for spouses or birth certificate for kids, again, apostille, super legalized, translated into Czech, all that. Criminal check, yes, that's important, and you generally need criminal check from the country of origin and from all the countries where you have lived for more than 6 months in the last 3 years. So if you're from India and you lived 2 years in Dubai, you need criminal check from both the countries. If you're an American and you spent 3 years in Vietnam, you need criminal check from the US, from Vietnam, so from all these countries. Again, apostille, super legalized, translated into Czech, not older than 180 days. And health insurance, you will need to, let me just make a note here. Do článku. Okay. Because in the article I forgot to include the application fee, which is not really a document, but I want to have it there, so I will just change it later. So health insurance, you will only need it once the visa is approved, and generally you need to get it for the full validity of the visa. So if you get the visa approved for a full year, you need to get local Czech health insurance for a year. And then the application fee, that's generally 2,500 for adults and 1,000 crowns per child, but it can potentially vary depending on the embassy where you apply. As for the steps, let me see. Hello, immigration attorney. Can you tell me about Czech PR? I want to complete Czech language diploma. How can I do it in Plzeň? Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for the question. I only answer topical questions, so about family reunification on this live stream, but I will be doing another live stream only for joiners when I finish this one. So if you're not a joiner yet, join, and I'll be happy to answer the question in details in the private live stream. So now, steps for the family reunification visa. First, plan properly. That's very important because the whole process will take very likely between 4 and 6 months, because the preparation takes 1 to 2 months at least, then approval 60 to 90 days, and then you still have some steps to take after the visa is approved. So roughly 4 to 6 months, and you should count with that, and especially if it's related to the main applicant, to their job offer or school starting, you need to keep this in mind. Second part is collecting the documents, everything we talked about in the previous section. Third, requesting an appointment at some Czech embassy. That should ideally happen somewhere when you're collecting all the documents, so somewhere in the step 2. And then it depends how this works, depends on the embassy where you're trying to apply and your nationality. Because in some embassies or at some embassies, it's as simple as writing an email saying, hey, we want to apply for visas, when can we come? In some countries, there might be like long waiting times because you can only apply once a month within 1 minute time window. And if you miss it, you have to wait for another month and you might never get an appointment. So it's kind of, it depends on the embassy and you need to take this into consideration when preparing all the documents. Then once you submit your application, or when you get the appointment, you go to the embassy, you submit the application. There is usually no official interview for the family reunification, but you should be prepared to answer some basic questions like what's your address, what your spouse will be doing in the Czech Republic, what school they study or what job they have, all that. How long have you been together? When did you get married? These kind of like basic questions you should know if you're really a couple. But then make sure you get an application number. It's not really like that important for visa applications, but it's better to have it. And let's now talk about why. Because then you will be waiting for the decision. Couple things here. Officially, the family reunification should take 60 to 90 days to get approved. In real life, it can be anything in between like 2 weeks and never. Because the Czech immigration does not really care. If they have 60 days by the law, they don't care. They can take like 6 months and whatever. Sorry guys for coughing that lot. I was sick until very recently, so my throat is still not used to talking for a half an hour. So one thing. Second thing is that the embassy does not make the decisions. So don't contact the embassy and don't ask about your status. You will only piss the embassy off and they will not give you any information anyway, because the decision is made by the Ministry of the Interior and the embassy only knows something when the ministry lets them know something. And when the embassy knows something, they will let you know immediately about that something. So if they didn't let you know, they don't know anything. Of course, in 1% of cases, it can happen that they send you an email, but your Gmail like put it into spam and you didn't find it. Yes, but that usually does not happen to majority of people. So write into the embassy before they reach the final like deadline. So let's say the 90 days will only piss them off and that will not solve anything. So don't do that. But what you can do is once they exceed the 90 days, then you can start taking some steps, but those steps must be addressed to the Ministry of the Interior, and that's where you need the application number. You can send some urgency letter, let's say just asking, guys, what the fuck, why is it taking so long? Usually doesn't help, but potentially could. Or then you can send a very strong letter, the complaint letter, which is a very strong legal thing to do, and it always helps. You just need to be prepared for whatever comes after. And then if you finally get approved, you need to get the health insurance I talked about before. Then you go back to the same embassy where you submitted your applications. They put the visas in your passports. And then you can come to the Czech Republic and finish the process here. Usually the last step at the territory of the Czech Republic is going to the foreign police, where you get registered saying, hey, I've arrived. You have to do that within 3 days after arrival, and then usually you are good to go and live in the Czech Republic for a year before you have to submit your residence permit application or extension or whatever you'll be doing. So that's briefly it. Briefly 34 minutes explaining. So sorry for that, guys. I talk a lot. I don't know how to shorten it. Sorry. So if you have any questions regarding family reunification, now's the right time to ask. Because if you don't, then I will go to the joiners section and I will do the live stream there where we have open Q&As session where you can ask me anything. In this public live stream, it's limited to the topic of the video. In the private session, you can ask me whatever questions you want to. So let me give you 20 seconds maybe. And if no one asks anything, I will just go to the joiner section and I will start the live stream there. Okay, so no questions here. So guys, anyway, thank you for being here today. And if you found this useful or you think it could be helpful to someone, please share it, comment it, recommend the channel, follow, of course, everything. You know the drill. And I will see you again Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, until the end of the world. Good night, guys. Bye-bye.